3D printed discs are having a moment. NSH Customs has been pumping out disc after disc for a few years now, paving the way for more than a few other brands to follow suit. Last summer, we got our hands on Forge discs for the first time. Just a couple months ago, we took a look at Grassland discs from Canada. And at Disc East in Massachusetts, we got our hands on a new 3D printed brand, Goodtree. And these are our first impressions. Hey everyone, it's Greg from Six Sided Discs, and before we dive into Goodtree, let me take a moment to talk about our schedule for the 2026 season. Yep, the Hexagon may be coming to a city near you because this season we're traveling all around Ohio, across the Midwest, and even beyond. First, we'll be hosting 3 events throughout the season at some of Ohio's great courses, starting May 2nd at Eagle Ridge in Coshocton. Plus, we are back at 2 huge Midwestern events, Ledgestone and the LWS Open at Idlewild. And if that's not enough, we're vending at 3 tournaments we've never attended before, the Discmania Challenge in Des Moines, Iowa, the PDGA Pro World Championships in Milford, Michigan, and USDGC in Rock Hill, South Carolina. At each of these Pro Tour stops, we'll be giving away a Velcro patch to our subscribers, so make sure you stop by, show us that you're subscribed to our channel to get your free Velcro patch. And of course, we'll be bringing along some hexagons to every event and hopefully some surprise releases throughout the season. We hope to see you out there. Now, let's get back to Goodtree. Goodtree is a new manufacturer started by 4 friends in southern New Hampshire. And the big question for any new manufacturer these days is, how are you going to actually make your discs? If you want them injection molded, you have 2 options. Drop $100 grand or so on an injection machine, buy a big pile of plastic, and figure out how to use it. Or pay a company like Gateway Disc Sports to make them for you. There are some obvious and less obvious pros and cons for either option, but either way, you're going to need a pile of money. And if you don't have a couple gold bars in your back pocket, then you might prefer to start small and work your way up by 3D printing. 3D printing has been used for prototyping by many companies for years now, but it wasn't until the PDGA began approving 3D printed discs a few years ago that it emerged as a low-cost way for manufacturers to get their ideas from digital idea to physical reality, and then slowly scale that into a new business. Goodtree is just the latest to take that approach, but they are doing a few things, both now and in the future, to try and stand out from that 3D printed crowd. One of the first things they're doing is something interesting with the names of their discs. Rather than naming each individual design, or what we would traditionally call a mold, they give a name to the sort of base disc in that slot, and then use a stability-based system to name the others. For example, this is the Knot. Rated at 4302, the Knot is their flagship approach disc. And it's that staple approach that every brand needs. Something reliably overstable that players can depend on for consistent approaches. This, however, is not the Knot. Although it is a knot, it's just not that knot. It's the Knot minus. I'm confusing myself. Okay, look. Knot, not minus. Knot. Not minus, knot. Before the knot minus, though, they had to perfect the knot, going through 14 iterations until they felt it was just right. This attention to detail goes into every design before making the stability variations. When adjusting the stability of the designs, Goodtree is keeping things simple. When they went to make the knot minus, they just simply lowered that parting line, adding some nice understability. And since it's the understable version, it is the minus version of the knot. This naming convention also applies to their mid-range, the Burl, which we'll see in just a moment. But first, let's get the Knot and the Knot Minus out on the course to see how they fly. For me personally, the Knot is every bit as overstable as advertised, and probably a bit more. I would say it could easily have 3 fade if I were a big fan of flight numbers. But I'm not, so I won't. Except I did. Anyways, Team Six Sided Discs' Josh Alexander, who throws very much harder than I do, found the Knot to still have quite a bit of overstability. And that means it's every bit as reliable and dependable as Goodtree planned it to be. The Knot Minus, though, is quite intriguing. As we've established on our channel, and as I think most people would agree, a straight shot is the hardest shot to throw in disc golf. Until it isn't, because here is the Knot Minus flying very straight for me, and even flying very straight for Josh. Those are some hugely impressive flights. So not only do they fly well, but they look pretty good as well. That's because Goodtree can do one thing with 3D printing that you can't do with injection molded discs, and that is microtextures. Every single thing about a 3D printed disc can be adjusted. The top and bottom surface patterns, the infill patterns inside, what percentage of the inside of the disc is actually infilled, how thick it is, and finally, what surface you actually print the disc on. Pretty much every 3D printed disc is printed upside down, and that's where the microtexture comes in. It's something that I've actually experimented with on my own 3D printer right here, which is an Elegoo Centauri Carbon. It's the exact same printer that Goodtree uses. Microtexture plates are often confused with foil stamps or holographic stickers or decals, when it is in fact just a very fine texture built into the surface of the plate that simply reflects light to create these stunning patterns. Like this one, which are just tiny hexagons, or this one, which is literally our logo. So cool. One thing that makes 3D printed discs different to injection molded discs is the feel of the plastic. Since we've been testing them and putting them in the hands of different players, we've noticed a very love it or hate it type reaction to the feel of the plastic. I think that's because they can feel quite slick, like it might be hard to get a good grip. But in practice, they often release and fly just fine. I've also heard some concerns about durability, but I've actually been bagging this Forge Discs Ash for almost a year now, and it is holding up perfectly well. But what's interesting is that Goodtree is at least a little bit less concerned about the feel or durability of 3D printing than most of their 3D printed competitors. And that's because 3D printing is not their forever strategy. Yet while some companies seem to be all in on 3D printing, Goodtree is comfortable using this as a stepping stone to injection molding, which is unquestionably better for mass production. But before they can get to injection molding, they need to keep putting out great designs, like the Knot and their mid-range, the Burl. The Burl is a straight mid-range, rated at 5.4, -1.1, and the hand feel is not unlike other popular straight mid-ranges like the Buzz or Claymore. And the Burl is also the first disc in the Goodtree lineup to show a real difference between Josh and I's arm speeds. For Josh, the Burl is happy to get some turn, slowly drifting off to the right. While for me, the Burl flips up, pushes straight, and then gets just a gentle fade. Both are still fairly straight shots, but there's definitely a noticeable difference in stability. And for the Burl, Goodtree has added two alternate stability versions, the Plus and the Minus. Side by side here, you can see the difference in profile and parting line. While the Plus has a high parting line for overstability, the Minus has a much lower one. On the course, the Burl Minus, rated at 5.4, -2.1, has just a bit more understability than the Burl, just as intended. For Josh, it gets on turn and stays there. While for me, it does the same while traveling a much shorter distance. Meanwhile, the Burl Plus has some nice consistent overstability. For Josh, it comfortably holds the angle it's released on before slowly fading. And for me, the Burl Plus is very overstable, again showing a noticeable difference from Josh's speed to my own. I threw the Burl Plus hard and on a slight anhyzer, and it quickly fights out with an aggressive fade. We've tested over 80 brands in the last 3 years, and I would be lying if I said that I was super excited about every single one. When we test a new brand that's just a rehash of old molds or top this and bottom that from an existing company, there is a little bit of that doesn't feel truly new and original. But with Goodtree, it really does feel unique and special. A different manufacturing process, meticulous design, and careful modification to those designs means each disc feels distinctly different, but similar enough that you understand it. If this is where Goodtree starts, I'm excited to see where they go next. In fact, Goodtree let us in on a little bit of their plans for the future. They're working on finalizing designs for their 7-speed lineup before sending them into the PDGA for approval. They're also focused on researching new plastics, such as a recycled plastic made from filament waste, which is a common byproduct of 3D printing. And they're also currently taking wholesale applications to get their discs into a store near you. So if you're interested in trying out the Goodtree lineup for yourself, you can find them online at Union Square Disc Golf and Marshall Street. What do you think of Goodtree? And are you interested in trying the Knot or the Burl? Let us know in the comments below. And also comment below what new discs or brands we should explore in the future. For 6-Sided Discs, I'm Greg. We'll see you in the next one. If you like this content and want to see more, please consider liking the video, subscribing to our channel, or becoming a member. Your support makes this content possible.